Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Newsline at noon, South Korea showcases state-of-the-art weapons capable of coping with military threats from North Korea in a grand show of force to mark the country's 65th Armed Forces Day. President Park Geun-hye vows to maintain a strong alliance with the United States and keep improving military power as long as Pyongyang continues its nuclear weapons development and threatens regional security. Plus, with the clock ticking on a possible government shutdown, US President Barack Obama urges the Republicans to avoid it by approving his controversial healthcare reforms. These stories and more on Newsline at noon.
Where's the best place for bibimbap?
Les Jeux Olympiques d'hiver se dérouleront-ils à Pyeongchang?
هل أنتم حقاً سابع أكبر مصدر في العالم؟
この歌手は誰ですか？你好，最近哪部电视剧的人气最旺？
Korea is attracting interest from around the world. The more you know, the more you want to know. Dynamic Korea.
Thanks for joining us here watching Newsline at noon. I'm Choi You-sun in Seoul.
Very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. Now, Korea is celebrating the 65th Armed Forces Day on this Tuesday. The national ceremony held this morning was the largest in scale in a decade, with some 11,000 troops taking part and a showcase for the nation's latest weapons, some of which are being displayed for the very first time.
Our Defense Ministry correspondent Han Da-eun starts us off.
Korea held a massive national ceremony at the Seoul Air Base Tuesday, celebrating the 65th year since the formation of the nation's armed forces. The day is celebrated every year, but this year's was the largest in scale since 2003, with President Park Geun-hye, Defense Minister Kim Kwon-jin, and visiting U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel in attendance. More than 11,000 troops participated, while some 300 pieces of the latest ground and air military hardware were showcased, including some that had never been shown to the public. One of the weapons on display was the newly developed Hyunmoo-3 cruise missile, which boasts a world-class striking accuracy with a margin of error of only 3 meters. With a maximum range of 1,500 kilometers, it can strike any facility in North Korea when fired from the south. The Korean Air Force owned precision strike missiles Popeye and Slam-ER, as well as the ship-to-ground Haesung missiles, were also unveiled for the first time. Following the military parade, President Park Geun-hye presented awards to 4 individuals, including lieutenant generals of the Army and the Air Force, and 12 battalions, including the Infantry Battalion and the headquarters of the Air Force and the Marine Corps. She then gave a keynote speech in which she once again reiterated that Seoul will not tolerate further provocations from North Korea. Immediately after the main event, the Korean Air Force, in collaboration with the U.S. Air Force, put on an air show at the Seoul Air Base where high-tech air tricks were demonstrated. Another military parade will be held in downtown Seoul Tuesday afternoon, involving roughly 100 military vehicles carrying the latest weaponry and about 4,500 troops. Parts of Seoul Central District, including roadways near City Hall, Seoul Station, Jonggak Station, Namdaemun Gate, and the Sejong intersection, will be blocked to traffic from 1 to 5 p.m. for the event. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
This year is even more special as it is the 60th anniversary of the South Korea-U.S. alliance. President Park, in a ceremony earlier today, emphasized the importance of the alliance and made it clear the South will maintain a strong military posture against North Korea to make it give up its nuclear ambitions. Our presidential correspondent Oh Jin-ju reports.
President Park says South Korea should maintain a strong military deterrent against North Korea until the communist country abandons its nuclear program and makes the right choice for its people and peace on the Korean peninsula.
도발을 용납하지 않는 튼튼한 안보가 뒷받침될 때 평화를 지키면서 북한을 진정한 변화의 길로 이끌어낼 수 있을 것입니다.
During a ceremony Tuesday commemorating the 65th anniversary since the establishment of the armed forces here in Korea, President Park stressed that the military's true reason for being is not to engage in war, but to prevent war. She said the government would maintain a strong South Korea-U.S. combined defense system and do its best to secure capabilities to counter weapons of mass destruction, such as a preemptive missile destruction system called Kill Chain and Korea Air and Missile Defense, or KAMD. Budget plans for these two systems were included in the government's budget proposal for next year. President Park also emphasized the need for reforms within the Korean Army to become what she called an innovative and creative military that quickly adapts to changes and actively deals with threats.
앞으로 우리 군은 첨단 기술 집약형 선진 군대로 발전해 나가야 하고 혁신적인 국방 경영 노력을 통해서 국방 운영의 효율성과 투명성을 높여가야 합니다.
The president put emphasis on normalizing the wrong practices remaining in the military and promised to enhance the working environment for soldiers. Oh Jun-ju, Arirang News.
In downtown Seoul, a military fair is underway this week that aims to raise awareness about the Korean military and provides hands-on experiences of basic military service to the public. Kim Hyun-bin sent us this report.
The Korean military is having a fair in downtown Seoul this month to give the public a glimpse of what active duty soldiers go through during their roughly 1 year and 9 months of service. Hosted by the Ministry of Defense, the event is being held in a year filled with military milestones and aims to educate people about the service by inviting them to participate in some fun activities.
This year marks the 65th Armed Forces Day, the 60th year since the Korean armistice and the 60th anniversary of the Korea-U.S. alliance. This is a festival not only for the military but for ordinary people.
They had all the latest military gear on display. And the best part for some people was they got to try it all on for themselves.
My dream is to become an officer. It was fun to experience it here, but the pack is heavy, so it's a little tough.
Most popular was the snack corner, where there were several popular military snacks up for grabs.
What I have in my hand is kundaeria, a military-style hamburger, which is a very popular breakfast item among active cadets. At this fair in downtown Seoul, ordinary people could get a little taste of what it's like to be in the Korean military.
Even foreigners were in for the ride.
I got guided here by some tourist information. We tried the food and the uniforms, and we saw the pictures. It was kind of cool seeing Korean's military history. Very informative.
The fair is scheduled to run through October 2nd. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
With the U.S. Defense Secretary visiting Seoul this week, South Korea and the U.S. are discussing the possibility of delaying Washington's 2015 transfer of wartime operational control to Seoul. The Washington Post has reported on a growing sense of frustration within the U.S. about the issue. Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
Some U.S. lawmakers are reportedly growing tired of South Korea's reluctance to take charge of its own defense. In a recent article, the Washington Post quoted Senator Carl Levin, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, as saying that, quote, "It's important that we see to it that the primary responsibility for defending South Korea during a time of war lies with South Korea." Levin added that South Korea is a sovereign nation, and sovereign nations should be responsible for their own national defense in time of war. The comments were made during a confirmation hearing for the incoming commander of the U.S. forces in South Korea, Army General Curtis Scaparotti, in July. For 6 decades since the end of the Korean War, Washington has maintained authority over South Korean troops should another war break out with North Korea. The U.S. was set to transfer its wartime operational control to South Korea by December 2015, but Seoul has recently been very vocal about keeping its forces under U.S. command beyond that date. South Korean officials are concerned that a lesser U.S. military role could embolden North Korea, while Washington is making significant cuts to its military spending due to budget constraints. Nearly 30,000 U.S. troops are permanently stationed in South Korea, and Washington has ensured that the transfer will not weaken its commitment. The issue will be discussed by U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel and his South Korean counterpart Kim Kwon-jin during Hagel's 3-day stay in Seoul this week. Hagel, who toured the demilitarized zone dividing North and South Korea on Monday, said that the visit to one of the most heavily guarded borders in the world was a reminder that North Korea is not only a threat to the South, but also a threat to the United States. 황상희, Arirang News.
Turning now to the latest controversy surrounding the new pension plan. President Park Geun-hye has accepted the resignation of Welfare Minister Jin Young, having initially rejected his offer to take the fall for revisions to her pension program. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
President Park Geun-hye accepted the resignation of her welfare minister Jin Young Monday evening amid disagreements over a new pension plan unveiled last week. In an apparent criticism of Jin, President Park had urged her cabinet members and senior secretaries to have a sense of duty in pushing ahead with state affairs.
어려울 때일수록 국민을 위해서 최선을 다하고 각자의 임무에 충실할 때 국민들에게 신뢰를 받을 수 있을 것입니다. 비판을 피해간다고 문제가 해결되지는 않습니다. 당당하게 모든 문제를 해결해낼 수 있다는 의지와 신념이 결국 그 문제를 해결해낼 수 있는 것입니다.
The president's critics say that Jin's move demonstrates that President Park is struggling to resolve differences on key policies with related ministries, and some speculate that a cabinet reshuffle may not be far off. But Prime Minister Chung Hong-won dismissed that speculation outright and added that he regretted Jin's, quote, irresponsible move to step down. Over the weekend, Jin reiterated his intention to step down and told reporters that he had opposed and still opposes the idea of linking the new basic pension program with the national pension. Under the new basic pension plan, only the lower 70% income bracket of senior citizens aged 65 and above will receive up to 200,000 won, or about $186. However, even for those in the bottom 70%, basic pension payments will be reduced in accordance with how long they have contributed to the national pension system, with 1 in 10 receiving as little as $93. President Park had pledged to provide the maximum pension to all Koreans in this age group, regardless of income level. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
And staying with this story, at the National Assembly, a select group of lawmakers is questioning members of President Park's cabinet about the scale-back pension plan that has caused quite a stir here in Korea since its announcement last week. The emergency hearing is also focused on what prompted the Justice Minister to order an unprecedented investigation into the nation's top prosecutor, which led the Prosecutor General, Choi Dong-uk, to resign. Opposition lawmakers object to the government's actions on both issues, while ruling party lawmakers defend the government's decision, and we will bring you the details on the hearing as we get them. Turning back to the presidential office now, and President Park has blamed the Japanese leadership for impeding the trust-building process between the two countries. She made the remarks when visiting U.S. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel on Monday, brought up the need for Seoul and Tokyo to resolve their historical issues for a stronger security cooperation with Washington, stating that the Abe cabinet and Japanese lawmakers continue to make comments that hurt and even insult the Korean people, including wartime sex slaves. President Park said the strained relations cannot be resolved unless Tokyo displays sincerity.
For your fill of Korean and international news, join Choi You-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. Newsline at noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
On the country's economic front, Korea's consumer prices grew at their slowest pace in 14 years in September, falling into the 0% range. Statistics Korea said Tuesday that the nation's inflation rate edged up just 0.8% last month from the same period a year earlier. The figure marks the slowest yearly growth since September of 1999, when it also grew at 0.8%. Experts attribute the slowed growth to a drop in the prices of agricultural products, but this does not mean it's a turnabout towards deflation. One of Korea's 40 largest conglomerates, Dongyang Group, is on the verge of bankruptcy as it is struggling to pay back tens of millions of dollars in maturing debts this year. The country's financial watchdog has warned that bondholders can expect to take a massive hit. Our Choi You-sun has more.
The embattled Dongyang Group has sought court protection of its assets to avert bankruptcy. 3 affiliates of Korea's 38th largest conglomerate filed for court receivership on Monday when they failed to pay back $102 million of debts coming due. The 3 are Dongyang Incorporated, Dongyang Leisure Company, and Dongyang International Incorporated. The family-run conglomerate, once the country's 5th largest, still needs to pay back about $1 billion worth of debts in the next 3 months. The group has been striving to avoid a default by putting its thermal power and home appliance units on sale, but few buyers have shown interest in acquiring its assets. The group will work with creditors of its other non-financial units to either split them from the group or undergo a debt workout program. Financial Supervisory Service Governor Choi You-sun said Monday it is inevitable that some holders of Dongyang securities will face losses.
Partial losses by investors holding commercial papers or corporate bonds sold by Dongyang Group are inevitable since such short-term debts are not protected by the authorities.
The troubled conglomerate's liquidity crisis has prompted thousands of investors to flock to nearby branches of Dongyang's brokerage unit to withdraw money from their accounts there. Dongyang Group started off as a cement manufacturer in the 1970s, before growing into a conglomerate with 29 affiliates. Choi You-sun, Arirang News.
The U.S. government is inching closer to its first shutdown in nearly 2 decades after the Senate rejected a budget bill passed by the Republican-led House of Representatives that would delay President Obama's health care law for a year. Within minutes of convening on Monday, the Democratic-led Senate voted 54-46 against the bill. If no decision is reached by midnight U.S. Eastern Time or 1 p.m. Korea time on Tuesday, the U.S. government will close all non-essential federal services, and more than 700,000 federal government workers could be sent home on unpaid leave. Following the Senate vote, U.S. President Barack Obama urged the Republicans to avoid the shutdown by approving his controversial health care reforms.
And as You-sun was mentioning, the clock is ticking and there are no real signs of compromise. The US government is less than 1 hour away now from a possible shutdown. So why has this budget bill brought the world's most powerful country to the brink of a shutdown that could potentially affect hundreds of thousands of workers? Our Yulian explains.
Monday's budget brawl is yet another round in the ongoing fight between Democrats and Republicans over how much the government should be spending its money. Democrats advocate for investment in government programs, and the Republicans want government to be smaller. A government shutdown would affect more than 700,000 public service workers and an array of government services. The U.S. Congress has long been locked in battle over budget bills, and the reason why the debate has gone on as long as it has this time around is because it contains provisions for funding President Obama's health care plan, core parts of which are to take effect on Tuesday. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare, was passed with no Republican support, and House Republicans have since voted 42 times to either repeal it or strip it of funding. Obamacare, which is the most extensive overhaul of the U.S. healthcare system in 50 years, requires all Americans to obtain health insurance, and up to 15 million Americans are expected to benefit from the program. The majority of Republicans see it as an intrusive government system that will place a financial burden on individuals and businesses. The majority of Democrats, however, want to see the system implemented. The latest bill passed in the Republican-controlled House would fund the government but delay for 1 year the provision related to the health care law. The Senate, controlled by the Democrats, have vowed to reject any bill that would either repeal or defund the health care law, setting the Congress up for a fight that's going to ride down to the wire. Yurian, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics has ranked 8th among the world's top 100 brands for 2013, moving up one notch from last year. The Korean tech giant's brand was valued at $39.6 billion this year, jumping 20% from last year's $33 billion. And this is according to a report Monday by Interbrand, a leading global brand consultancy. Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors also made the top 100 list. Hyundai came in at 43rd place, rising 10 notches from last year, with a value of $9 billion, the brand that is, while Kia ranked 83rd with a brand value of $4.7 billion. Meanwhile, Apple pushed out Coca-Cola, which has claimed the first place since 2000 to take the top rank. Syria's foreign minister claims a number of regional and, quote, well-known Western countries are supplying the rebels with chemical weapons. Addressing the UN General Assembly on Monday, Walid Moallem said that whether those countries will abide by their legal commitments remains in question. And he emphasized Syria's commitment to get rid of its chemical weapons under the Chemical Weapons Convention. Meanwhile, a group of UN inspectors investigating the alleged use of chemical weapons in Syria left Damascus after ending their second mission in 2 months. A comprehensive report is due out sometime this month. Another group of UN inspectors are en route to Damascus to begin the process of verifying and eliminating Syria's chemical weapons. Okay, it's weather time, Yoo-sun. Let's get a check on the weather with our Lee-jeon standing by at our very wheaty-looking weather center there. Good afternoon to you, Ji-yeon.
Well, hello there, guys. Now, to celebrate the 65th Armed Forces Day, we have a parade and other various events in downtown Seoul this afternoon.
Right, and as we mentioned, certain roads in that area will be blocked off for a couple of hours during that time, so you might want to use public transportation if you have plans to be downtown today.
Absolutely, and the weather should be really nice this afternoon with plenty of sunshine and the temperatures in the mid to upper 20s nationwide, making it perfect to be outdoor this afternoon. And the highlight of today's events, the parade will take place from 4 to 5 p.m. So if you're planning to go and see it, make sure to take a light jacket or cardigan with you because once the sun starts to go down, it's going to get chilly. And as we can see, most of the morning clouds have moved out from the peninsula, but we do have some leftover clouds sticking around the nation, and it's likely to linger throughout the day. Now tomorrow, the central region can expect a bit of light rain in the morning hours, but I don't think you need to take an umbrella on your morning commute because it's gonna be very spotty. But the afternoon highs will be 3 to 4 degrees lower than today, so we will definitely feel a significant change in the air. Well, right now we are having a very good weather to start off a new month, so let's take a look at those readings. Seoul started off at 17, but it will It's rising to 26 degrees Celsius, which is 79 degrees in Fahrenheit. And the afternoon highs in Daegu and Busan will be 27, while Gwangju reaches 28. So it might be a bit hot in Gwangju. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju and Daejeon will have similar afternoon highs, while Mount Kumgang stays breezy and chilly under lots of clouds. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me today. Now back to Mark and Yoo-sun in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Jiyeon, for your weather report there. And those are the stories we're following at this hour.
Thanks for joining us on this Armed Forces Day edition of Newsline at noon. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time.